Hi everyone, David Aragona and Mike Beer here taking a look at one of two stakes races for the two-year-olds on Friday at Aqueduct. Race 7 is the Central Park Stakes, going the mile and a 16th distance on the turf. 8 runners signed on for this race, Mike, and some really interesting turf stakes on this Friday card. This one, not as large of a field as the Stuart Manor that we'll also do a video about on the YouTube channel, but a pretty competitive group here. The one to beat is probably the number 3 Noble Dynasty, who might be dropping out of a slightly tougher spot in the Pilgrim.
It feels like that could be his advantage here, David. I mean, he's a horse who's got a big pedigree for good connections. He started out with a lot of potential, it seemed like, and they ran him in a grade 2 last time, and he wasn't good enough. But this is probably a better spot for him.
They also ran him back pretty quickly in that grade 2. Maybe a little too much too soon for a lightly raced horse. We'll see if a little more time between races will suit Noble Dynasty here. Let's take a look at the Timeform US pace projector for this group of lightly raced horses. And Mike, with these horses having very little experience under their belts, their running styles can be fluid from race to race. But I would imagine the two horses that are shown first and second on this pace projector are likely to go forward early, especially the number 5, Honey Dutch, who just feels like he has unrateable early speed.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, listen, they're lightly raced horses, and you're right that running styles can change as time goes on. Be surprised if the running style changed with the 5 Honey Dutcher. This horse is very fast.
Let's start going through this field from the rail out, beginning with the number 1 at field, another lightly raced runner in this field. This will just be the 3rd start of his career and the first time that he's going to try going beyond the 6 furlongs. So a big stretch out in distance for this horse. He's got a little pedigree to handle it. The Vacomas can be versatile. They can go longer or shorter. Mike, this horse won at a big price on debut at Saratoga, beating the highly regarded Schwarzenegger with a big late run up the rail. I wonder what you think of his futurity last time, because he was sort of gingerly ridden through the stretch and was staying on between horses. I wonder if he's a horse that is going to get better with the added distance.
Yeah, I'm worried about it myself. I mean, I do want to give him, I do think he deserves credit for winning first time out. You know, even if you want to go back and watch that race and just, tell yourself that Schwarzenegger ran the better race, even though he didn't win, I would agree with that. But at the same time, to be a first-time starter confronted with a really fast pace like that, and to be able to come with a late run, I think he deserves some credit for that. I did not like his futurity that much, but it was a race. Fast fractions or not, it was a race that held together up front, and he did get 3rd in there. Listen, David, I like his 2 races. I don't love either one of them, and I wasn't convinced he was going to get better stretching out, so I took other horses in here. But I won't be surprised when he's competitive.
We should note the winner of that futurity came back and was no real factor in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint last weekend. Number 2 was Omaha Storm, who is stepping up in class out of a maiden win in the 2nd start of his career. We'll take a look at the stretch run of this race. And Mike, going back to this horse's debut, looked like a work in progress, one that probably needed that debut experience. He was much more professional in this race, did get a great trip just sitting in the pocket behind the leader. He tipped out an upper stretch, and he's going to wear this horse down. Mike, when I watched this horse run, the most striking thing about him to me is the stride length. I mean, you could see it in this replay. He's coming onto the wire. He really extends himself. And I was actually looking up some of the stride length data from GMAX and TPD just to see if the visual matched the data that was collected. He finished this race with a stride length exceeding 27 feet, which you almost never see from 2-year-olds. So there's a real frame of a good horse here. He's going to have to get faster.
Yeah, he's also got a really nice pedigree to run too as well. So you would sort of hope that he would keep getting better with time and experience, because that's what he's bred to do. I'm with you. You can see the improvement, even though the figure went down a little bit. You can see the improvement from start 1 to start 2 with this horse. He parlayed a perfect trip into a slow maiden win last time. This is obviously way tougher.
Just a note on that speed figure last time, only got a 49 buyer for the maiden victory. There have been 3 runbacks from that race. The 2nd place finisher improved 16 points. The 4th place finisher improved 21 points. And the 8th place finisher improved 27 points. So that's probably a race that is better than the speed figure that it got. The number 3, Noble Dynasty, he's simply the horse to beat in this race. He had trained well this summer at Saratoga, ran a bang-up race on debut behind the well-meant Teddy's Rocket, got the job done 2nd time out, maybe moving a little too soon from a wide post position, and then last time in the Pilgrim, Mike, I didn't love the performance, but there are excuses to be made with the quick turnaround and the step up in class.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's very fair. We'll see. I felt like he was a horse who was probably supposed to be more competitive in the Pilgrim than he was, and I just didn't really see any kind of excuse for him. I'm not sitting here suggesting he had to win that race, David, because I do think the 1, 2, and 3 finishers are all pretty good horses, but his trip worked out pretty well in there. And he got out finished, even though you didn't think he was going to win. He got out finished for third, I thought, without any excuse in there. So we'll see how much he can improve here. This is a better spot for him. I really did like his first two races. I do think he can get a different trip here, maybe a little bit closer to the pace. I thought he was the horse to beat. I wasn't terrified to look for alternatives.
The number 4, Sun Above, is the most lightly raced member of this field, making just the second start of his career, but he did a lot of nice things on debut at Laurel. We'll take a look at the replay of that race, and we'll start by looking at the beginning of the race, because he's the number 1 here, and like the chart comment says, steadied at the start. I think that's an understatement. This horse steadied, but also dwelled badly, and basically spotted the field 4 to 5 lengths from the beginning of the race. So for a horse to get away like that and make the run that he did, and we can pick this up again as they come to the top of the stretch and look at the rest of the race. I mean, Mike, he makes a big run from far back to get the job done. He did get paced to close into, and I wonder what was behind him, but you do have to give him some credit for this performance.
100%. Yeah, to me, that's what I would call a green start. This horse looked like he had no idea what he was supposed to do when the gates opened, and it cost him a little bit. But you're right. Other than that, everything kind of worked out for him because the pace was there. He got after the start, very, very good ride from this jockey. Got to save a lot of ground, swung him wide at the top of the stretch. He runs right by these horses. Good performance. This is a way tougher race.
The number 5, Honey Dutch, that speedball that we referenced with regard to the pace projector, he got on turf 2 back and just seemed to love it so much that the jockey couldn't slow him down in the early stages of that race at Kentucky Downs. He ran off from the field and never looked back, winning by nearly 7 lengths. Came back in his next start at Churchill, going the 1 mile distance around 2 turns, and again, seemed uncontrollable through the middle portions of the race. He ran off from that field, seemed like he maybe brought an insurmountable advantage into the stretch, but he got leg weary late, just got cut down as they came to the wire. Mike, if this horse runs that way against the tougher field, I wonder if he's going to be able to hold off some better foes in here, but there is ability here.
Yeah, there's no doubt. He's really fast, and I always think these horses are dangerous in New York too, because you just know they're probably not going to go after this horse early. So we'll see if he can ration his speed at all, so he can last. I think he's looked okay in the 2 turf races, David. If I was going to nitpick this horse, I'll just wait and see what kind of price he is. I don't love the horse that beat him last time. Even though he was getting tired and he went fast, he got run down by a filly there. And then, she came back and ran in a stakes race and just got absolutely buried at a short price in her next start. So that bothers me about this horse, but I still think he's a threat.
The number 6, Jutland, has kept some pretty good company so far in his career. I know his one poor effort came up at Woodbine. That was a pretty tough field that he faced in the second start of his career, so I can forgive him for that. And he's come back since then with a couple of nice second-place finishes in stakes company at Colonial and Laurel, including the Laurel Futurity, which we're taking a look at here. And, Mike, I thought this was a pretty nice performance. He has to wait briefly for room and upper stretch, sneaks through along the inside in those orange blinkers, finishes gamely for second. The winner of this race, he's okay. He was 2 for 2 following this race and then came back last weekend and was a good second at a stakes at Del Mar.
Yeah, I like that about it too. And you're right, that horse was 3 to 5 in this race, and you can just see if you watch the full replay. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that Jutland was going to beat him, but Jutland was sitting in behind there around the turn into the stretch, and the favorite got the jump on him. And at that point, Jutland was never going to catch him, but I still like the way he came through the inside and finished. I like actually all 4 of his races. Even the Woodbine race doesn't look that great. I thought he ran fine in there in a really tough situation for him. This horse is okay. I think he's a lot better than he looks on paper.
The number 7, Likeness, is a strange entrant in this race. And actually, the last 2 we'll talk about are a little odd that they're in here because they're both maidens. Likeness has yet to hit the board in his career, so it's just intriguing that Shug McGahee and the connections have decided to enter him in this stakes race. Maybe the fact that it's a small field and some of those maiden races go with very large fields. There's incentive to run against stakes company instead. This horse hasn't done a whole lot of running yet, Mike, but there is a lot of pedigree here when you dig into the female family, some really good turf breeding in particular. And the fact that they turned this horse back second time out after a brief freshening, I wonder if they were just using that as a bit of a prep race for something to down the line to stretch out again. I don't know if they were planning the stakes race after that, but I do feel like this horse is better than what he showed on the racetrack so far.
Yeah, well, listen, it was just odd to see him entered in a sprint for a second start, considering his pedigree, and he just got outpaced in that race. It kind of briefly, to me, looked like he was going to make a run this stretch, and then he didn't, and so that bothers me a little bit. And I don't want to knock this horse because it does feel like maybe there's potential down the line, and he's probably going to be a good price in this race, David. But I don't know about you. I know he debuted in a pretty tough race. I thought he was pretty bad in that race. I'm not sure that this horse can run at all.
I will say they went very slow early in that sprint race, sprinted home a very fast closing fraction. He was actually moving at the end and galloped out past the entire field, so does give you some idea that maybe that was a prep. The number 8 Beach Ballad, another maiden in this field, and also a filly taking on the males here. Mike, she's run a couple of nice races in her career, particularly when she was second to Deep Learning at Saratoga, got an 80 buyer speed figure that day. That's a number that hasn't necessarily held up to scrutiny with runbacks. But since then, Mike, she's run okay, finishing third in a couple of races in Kentucky. She's another one, though, that has a lot of early speed and sometimes goes a little too fast for her own good early.
Yeah, that was the case last time when they, stretched her out around 2 turns at Keeneland, and she just sort of secured the rail. It's interesting that the first fraction of that race looks fast. When I was watching it, David, I didn't really feel like she was going that fast in that race, and she opened up a big lead. Never looked like to me like she was going to hold it through the stretch there. I had a tough time warming up to this filly, especially with the 5 in this race. So it just feels like she's going to have to work way too hard early.
Let's go to our picks for this Central Park on Friday at Aqueduct. And Mike, I see you're going to go with the number 6 Jutland. I've got respect for him as well. Just feels like a horse that's in pretty good form right now.
Yeah, I just like all of his races. He's a horse who I do think is maybe a little bit better than he looks on paper. Probably be a fair price in this race. I'll take him. I think Noble Dynasty is the horse to beat, but he's not a horse I was afraid to take a shot against.
I just thought that there were some lightly raced horses with upside in this race. I even stuck the maiden likeness in there for third. I put the number 2 Omaha Storm on top. I think his last race is a lot better than that buyer speed figure that it was assigned. He is stepping up in class here, but I do believe based on the pedigree and what we've seen so far, he's a horse that could have another step forward in him. 2-6-7-3 for me and 6-5-3-1 for Mike in the Central Park Stakes on Friday at Aqueduct. Good luck if you're playing the races later this week.